There is a truth. It is very hard to accept when you first hear it, but if you look closely, you will see that it is happening in many families around us. That is, there are parents who, the more they love their children, the more they suffer in their old age. Hearing this, many people will find it hard to believe. You might even be thinking this is not true. Because from a very young age, we have been taught that parents must sacrifice for their children. They must love their children unconditionally. They must take care of everything for them, from meals to sleep, even their future. Parents can endure hardship as long as their children are well provided for. Parents can accept disadvantages as long as their children lack nothing. It almost feels like something obvious, something that every parent believes is right. But try to pause for a moment and ask yourself, if that way of loving is completely right, then why are there still so many parents who feel lonely in their old age? Why are there people who spent their entire lives raising and caring for their children but in the end have to live with feelings of sadness, emptiness, even pain because of their own children? Have you ever seen such scenes? A mother sitting alone in a familiar house, yet feeling empty. A father picking up his phone, then putting it down, not knowing whether he should call his child. These are very ordinary moments, but they make the heart sink. And perhaps you don't need to look at anyone else. Maybe you yourself are already in that story. Are you giving all your time to your children? Are you using all your energy and money just so your children can have a better life? Have you ever thought that as long as your children are happy, it is okay for you to suffer a little? Have you ever told yourself it is fine if I endure hardship as long as my children don't have to? Those thoughts sound very familiar, very reasonable. Very much like what we have always believed. But there is something that people rarely say out loud. There will come a day when your children grow up, when they have their own jobs, their own families, their own lives, and what you receive in return may not be what you once hoped for. It is not always gratitude. It is not always care. Sometimes it is just a slight distance, but enough to make you feel sad. Phone calls become less frequent. Visits home happen less often. Family meals are no longer as complete as before. And conversations become shorter, more hurried. Sometimes just a few casual questions. Sometimes silence. Can you imagine? Back then, when your child was little, you were their whole world. If you were gone for just a moment, they would cry. If you were not beside them, they could not sleep. You were the first person they turned to whenever they were happy or sad. But then time passes. Your child grows up. You are still there, but your place in their life gradually changes. At some point, you sit in your familiar house, holding your phone, looking at the screen, waiting for a call, waiting, but nothing comes. It is not that your child no longer exists in your life, it is that you are no longer the first person they think of. And the most painful thing is not that your child has changed, but that you begin to question yourself, whether you loved your child the right way. Perhaps after hearing this, you don't need to think too long. Because deep down, you may already have your answer. You have been like that, haven't you? You have had sleepless nights just because your child had a fever. You sat beside them, placing your hand on their forehead, worrying about every little change. You have eaten carelessly, not because you didn't like good food, but because you wanted to save the better portion for your child. You have worn old clothes, not because you didn't want new ones, but because you wanted your child to have them. You have put aside your own dreams, things you once wanted to do, just so your child could have the chance to do them. You have not allowed yourself to get sick. Because in your mind, there was always one thought. If I fall, who will take care of my child? Have you ever lived like that? In the mornings, you were the first to wake up, preparing meals, preparing clothes, so that your child would go out lacking nothing. At night, even when you were exhausted and just wanted to lie down, you still waited. Waited for your child to come home, just to ask one simple question. Were you tired today? You took care of your child in the smallest details. So small that sometimes even your child didn't notice. You worried about things your child had never even thought about. You lived for your child. You thought for your child. You made decisions also for your child. And you believed that was love. A very great love. An unconditional love. A love that you believed nothing could replace. But have you ever stopped and asked yourself, does your child truly understand all of that? Or in their mind, what you do is simply something natural, something they believe every parent would do? Have you ever felt that you give so much but receive so little? Have you ever felt hurt when your child is cheerful with others but distant with you? Have you ever wondered why you have tried so hard, yet your child is not what you expected? And there is one thing you may have never thought about. Or perhaps you have, but didn't dare to admit. That is, it is not that your child is heartless. It may be the way you loved shaped them into who they are. Loving your child is instinct. It is the most natural thing for a parent. But how you love is another matter. It is not that the more you sacrifice, the better it is. It is not that doing everything for your child will make them happy. There is a kind of love that looks very beautiful on the outside, very noble. But inside, it quietly creates consequences that few people notice. That is loving your child through excessive, blind sacrifice. What is blind sacrifice? It is when you do everything for your child, even things they can do themselves. It is when you don't want them to face any hardship because you fear they will suffer. It is when you always step in to solve problems instead of letting them learn to face them. It is when you put your child's happiness above everything else, even yourself. Does it sound familiar? It sounds very much like how many parents live. But try to look at it calmly. When you do things for your child, they won't learn to do things themselves. When you solve problems for them, they won't learn responsibility. When you shield them from all hardship, they won't know how to face life. Are you helping your child or making them weaker? Are you loving them or taking away their chance to grow? There is something worth thinking about. The more you do for them, the more dependent they become. The more you sacrifice, the more they get used to receiving. At first, they may feel grateful, but over time, those things become normal. They become something expected. And when something becomes expected, it is no longer appreciated. It is not that your child is ungrateful. It is that they have never experienced it themselves, so they don't understand its value. But if you have realized this, it is still not too late. You don't have to change everything at once. Just start with small things. For example, let your child do what they can do themselves. Don't rush to help. Don't rush to interfere. Step back, observe, and trust. At first, you will worry. You will feel uneasy. But that is normal. Another small change: learn to say no. It doesn't mean you stop loving your child. It means you start loving them the right way. It is not that whenever they want something, you must give it. It is not that whenever they need something, you must sacrifice. And don't forget, live a little for yourself. You also need rest. You also need care. You also deserve a life of your own. When you take care of yourself, you are teaching your child something very important: that everyone must take responsibility for their own life. Loving your child the right way is not keeping them with you forever, but helping them stand on their own, even without you. I once met a mother. Her story may make you think deeply. She lived her whole life for her child. Her husband passed away early. She raised her son alone. Life was very hard. She worked many jobs, from morning until night. Some days she barely ate, just to save money for her child. Some nights she stayed awake because her child was sick. She never thought about herself, never bought anything, never rested. Everything was for her child. When her child went to university, she borrowed money. When he graduated, she continued to support him. When he got married, she still helped, taking care of grandchildren, helping with housework, helping with everything. But then time passed. Her son became busier, called less, visited less. On holidays, she stayed alone, waiting, looking out the door. But no one came. One time she was hospitalized. She called her son. He said he was busy. He would arrange later. But later took a very long time. When I met her, she only said one sentence very softly: "It's not that he is heartless, maybe I just loved him the wrong way." That sentence sounds simple, but if you think deeply, it hurts. Because sometimes our suffering does not come from others, but from the way we love. It is not only about sacrifice. There is another kind of love, that is control. You think you know what is best for your child. You decide for them. You don't let them make mistakes. But you forget mistakes are also a way to grow. And another kind is loving your child with expectations. You sacrifice and expect something in return. But when it doesn't happen, you feel sad, disappointed, hurt. But ask yourself, is that love or an exchange? In the end, everything comes back to a simple truth: what you give is what you receive. If you give dependence, you receive weakness. If you give control, you receive distance. If you give blind sacrifice, you may receive indifference. It is not that your child is wrong, but the way it started led to that result. And perhaps this relationship is not only about love, but also a journey to learn. To learn how to love correctly. To learn how to let go. To learn when to stop. Loving the right way is not giving everything, but giving while still keeping yourself. If you have listened this far, perhaps you already understand. And if you understand, it is not too late. Just start changing from today. A little bit. Gently, but enough to be different. And if you resonate, try writing one sentence: "I will learn to love my child the right way." That is a promise. Not to anyone else, but to yourself. And if you find this meaningful, share it with your loved ones. Maybe they also need to hear it. Finally, I wish you peace. I wish you a light heart. And I wish you an old age without sorrow because of your children.